All right, today we're jumping into one of the most intense and unforgettable stories in the book of Genesis, Abraham's plea for Sodom. It's a story about a city teetering right on the edge of total destruction, and it's a powerful explainer on hospitality, justice, and divine judgment.
And this is it. This is the question that kicks the whole thing into high gear. Abraham poses this directly to God, and this single line sets up this incredible negotiation, challenging the very idea of collective punishment. You could say it's the moral heart of the entire story.
So, where does this all begin? Well, it starts not with thunder and lightning, but actually with a quiet, remarkable act of welcome. Picture this. It's the heat of the day, and Abraham is just sitting by his tent when he looks up and sees three strangers walking toward him. Now, what happens next is pretty amazing. We're talking about a masterclass in hospitality here. Abraham doesn't just walk over, he runs to greet them. He bows all the way to the ground. He personally makes sure a huge feast is prepared, the best calf, fresh butter, milk, the whole deal. And then he just stands there waiting on them while they eat. This level of respect for strangers is a really big deal, and it kind of hangs over everything that's about to happen.
So in return for this incredible generosity, the visitors, and we find out one of them is actually the Lord, they give him a pretty stunning piece of news. They promise that in 1 year, his wife, Sarah, who is very old and has never had children, will have a son.
So Sarah's in the tent, listening in, and she just laughs to herself. I mean, can you blame her? From a human perspective, it's completely impossible. But her quiet, private laugh doesn't go unnoticed. And the response she gets completely reframes the situation. It shifts from what's humanly possible to what's divinely possible, with that huge question, is anything too hard for the Lord?
Okay, so the meal's over, the promise has been made, and the visitors get up to leave. But this is where the whole mood just shifts. It gets dark, fast. They turn and look toward the city of Sodom, and we're about to find out the real reason they're here.
And here it is, the formal charge. The outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah has gotten so loud, so grievous, that a divine investigation is about to happen. Suddenly, the fate of two whole cities is on the line. And this is the moment Abraham decides he has to step in.
This is just such a bold move. Abraham literally drew near and he challenges the plan. But notice what he's doing. He's not just begging for mercy. He's appealing to God's own character, to God's own justice. He's basically asking, won't the supreme judge of everything do the right thing here?
And this kicks off one of the most intense negotiations you'll ever read. Abraham, who calls himself nothing more than dust and ashes, starts haggling. What if there are 50 good people, he asks. God agrees. Okay, what about 45? And he keeps going, 40, 30, 20, until he gets all the way down to a final desperate plea for just 10 righteous people. And the Lord agrees. Find 10, and the city is safe. So the deal is struck. The magic number is 10. Now the story cuts straight to Sodom itself. Two of the visitors, who we now know are angels, arrive at the city gates that evening. The search for those 10 good people is officially on. And right away, we see two completely opposite reactions. Lot, who is Abraham's nephew, sees them and, just like his uncle, immediately offers them safety and shelter in his home. But before the night is even really started, the men of the city surround the house, and their demand is violent and chilling. The contrast between Lot's welcome and the city's welcome could not be more clear. And the text is really specific here. This is important. This wasn't just a small group of troublemakers. It says it was the men of the city, both old and young, all the people from every quarter. The point is, the wickedness wasn't a fringe element, it was everywhere. From here, things just spiral out of control. Lot goes outside and begs them to stop. He even makes this horrifying offer to give them his own daughters if they'll just leave his guests alone. But the mob doesn't care. They threaten him, and then they surge forward to smash the door down. The only thing that stops them is the angels yanking Lot back inside and striking the entire mob blind.
Well, that's it. The test is over. The city has failed in the most dramatic way possible. So now the angels' job changes. They're no longer investigators, they're a rescue team. And they give Lot and his family one final urgent command.
But even now, with doom literally at his doorstep, Lot hesitates. He lingers. Can you believe it? Things are so urgent that the angels have to physically grab his hand and his wife's and daughter's hands and literally drag them out of the city. The text has this was an act of the Lord's mercy. The instructions are crystal clear. Run for your life. Don't stop anywhere on the plain. And the most important rule of all, whatever you do, do not look back. Their very survival now hinges on following these rules exactly. And of course, this command sets up the story's most famous, tragic moment. And then it happens. Suddenly. It's not a slow burn, it's a catastrophic explosion. Fire and brimstone rain down from the sky. The time for negotiation is over. The destruction is absolute, wiping out the cities, everyone in them, and everything that grew on the plain. And in that chaos, someone breaks the rule. Lot's wife looks back. Why? We're never told. Maybe it was regret, maybe disbelief, it doesn't matter. The consequence is immediate and final. She becomes a pillar of salt, a lasting monument to what happens when you disobey. The next morning dawns, and one man, all alone, goes back to that place where he had stood and bargained with God. It's Abraham. And there he gets his answer. He doesn't see any survivors, no sign that 10 righteous people were found. All he sees is smoke, thick, heavy smoke, rising from the plains like a giant furnace. It's the silent, final verdict on his plea to save the city. But you know, the story doesn't actually end there with the fire and destruction. It follows the few survivors, Lot and his 2 daughters, out into this new, empty, traumatized world. And the text tells us something really crucial right here. Lot was saved because, quote, God remembered Abraham. So that whole negotiation, Abraham's desperate plea, it wasn't a total failure. It didn't save the city, but it did save his family. And this is where things get really dark and troubling. Lot and his daughters end up hiding in a cave. His daughters, convinced they're the last people on earth, come up with a desperate plan to keep the family line going. Over 2 nights, they get their father drunk and conceive children with him. And from this act, born out of trauma and fear, come the ancestors of 2 entire nations. So what do you do with a story like this? It starts with a righteous plea for justice and ends in fiery ruin. We see a pillar of salt and a grim new beginning in a cave. It is just packed with these huge, unsettling questions about God, about human nature, and about that really thin line between order and chaos. What's the ultimate lesson here? Well, that's a question people have been wrestling with for thousands of years.